Have you guys heard of the founders of sociology? Emily Durkheim, Karl Marx, and Max Weber? If your answer is yes, then you're ready for this presentation. I'm going to be explaining this focused question. What are the three paradigms developed by the three founders of sociology important to help us understand how we can make assumptions of society? Just to let you know, my name is Jananee, and I chose to speak about this topic relating to week number 3. So the first theory is structural functionalism theory. Let's first talk about that. Emily Durkheim states that it is each of the relationships, institutions, norms, and roles that all come together to become a society that has a purpose. Social change is referred to as a response of tension to social systems. Social structures are defined by the French sociologist Emily Durkheim. He states that parts of a society are independent and based on the structure of behaviors of people and institutions. He states that groups are held together based on organic solidarity and mechanical solidarity, such as self-sufficient farmers. So now examples of organic solidarity are the military, governments, factories, and other complex organizations. Structural functionalism ended in the 1960s, but it gained its prominence during the Civil War movement and the anti-war movements in the United States. Now I'm going to be applying the key concepts. According to lecture of this week in week number 3, I learned that Emily Durkheim believes society is an organism like we learn in science, where different parts work together to function society. He sees society as a complex system where the different parts working together provide stability and social order. I also learned from the lecture that Durkheim believed that different parts of the social structures are and they are stable patterns of social behavior. Based on the lecture, I also learned that Durkheim states relations of an individual are shaped by mechanical solidarity. Mechanical solidarity is the social integration that members of society have with common values and beliefs. An example of this is in my community of Canada. All Canadians celebrate the same celebrations, follow the same traditions, eat similar foods. We believe in allowing other cultures to shape our community, and most of us would attend the same types of schools. These are all the common beliefs and values that all the members of my society have in common. So Durkheim also believed in organic solidarity, which refers to the interdependence of individuals who follow professional interdependence in advanced societies. An example of this was mentioned in the lecture, which is the fact that in modern society, people work in specialized jobs such as marketing manager, an entrepreneur, or even working as a data analyst. Now let's move on to the second paradigm, conflict theory. Karl Marx believed that there are two classes, the ruling and the subject. One has more positions compared to the proletariats. Marx defined society as a system where social groups, beliefs, and institutions and doctrines are interrelated together. They must be studied as interrelations in an order based on politics, law, religion, or thought. But as well as that, the paradigm of conflict theory, he defines the term historical materialism, as we learned in the previous lectures, and believed in studying nature of society. He defined historical materialism as the cause of social change, and his theory of history. Social change results in social conflict, which is struggles between the two main classes. Marx stated that social conflict is the conflict between the two main classes of society, such as the bourgeoisie and the proletariats. As well as the social class conflict is between these two classes, he figured out that this type of conflict started in the 19th century during the French Revolution, which will be elaborated more in the next slide for the next section of this topic, which is the key concepts. Now let's go to the key concepts. So based on the lecture number 3 this week, part 2, focused on Karl Marx's conflict theory. I learned that Marx believes social change of this economic conflict between those who fit in the category and those who do not. The conflict of classes is between those who own property and those who own people. So as stated in the lecture, Marx believed that those who own property or people are called the means of production. So it's the ownership between private properties such as banks, money, and land. Then you want to know how this conflict between the two classes occurred. Well, Marx states that two main classes developed a conflict during feudalism in Europe. Later, a new group of people emerged as a class, including wage laborers, and this was known as the proletariats, who are the low working class. Marx also believed the other group of people became the bourgeoisie, or the middle class. This conflict between the bourgeoisie and the proletariats led to the French Revolution at that time. And now let's talk about the third paradigm, symbolic interactionism theory. Max Weber defines symbolic interactionism as how people behave towards things such as tables, institutions, activities, chairs, and people's interactions. Symbolic interactionism is interactions that come from people dealing with any situation they may encounter, and that's also with others in society. So as well as the way Max Weber defined this theory of symbolic interactionism, George Herbert Mead was the actual founder. He defined this theory as symbolic, that the main social interactions we have with other people. So he stated that one type of social interaction is the actions that people do, and people see what they are doing or what they are planning to do. After that, the response is making connections with others. Two types of social interactions are the conversation of gestures, and the second is symbolic interaction. Two types of that. So one of them is conversation gestures, is when someone does an action and others can understand what they are about to do before responding. Symbolic interaction is acting in a way to find meaning in each other's actions and respond through a gesture. Now I'm going to apply the key concepts. So the third founder about social interactionism was stated by Max Weber based on lecture number 3 this week. So in the lecture I learned that Max Weber's social interactionism theory is basically how individuals make sense of the world they live in. This approach of Max Weber's focused on individuals themselves and is the specific way they interact. So Max Weber, the German sociologist, believed that this theory is a focus of individual situations and meanings attached to them, as well as the interactions that people have with other people. So the other point from the lecture related to my research is George Herbert Mead connects this theory to social interaction. He defines social interaction as our thoughts, our self-concept, and about the community that we live in to communicate through our interactions in society. And that brings us to conclusion. So to conclude, we found that the answer to my focus question. The key points of this discussion goes back to my focus question. Why are the three paradigms developed by three founders of sociology important to help us to understand how we can make assumptions of society? So the answer to this is you learned that Emily Durkheim focused on structural functionalism, as he was one of the main sociologists and defines it as each of the relationships, institutions, norms, and roles that all come together to become a society that has a purpose. While the second sociologist, Karl Marx, focused on conflict theory between proletariats and the bourgeoisie. Finally, you learn that the third paradigm developed by Max Weber focused on symbolic interactionism, which is how people's interactions shape society and how people behave towards things such as tables, institutions, activities, and chairs. Now let's talk about the discussion question for the class. Now my question to everyone is, which sociologist theory did you agree with and why? Think about your answer, and this ends our discussion.